Okay, so a video that I guess I've been taking for granted. This is basically how to read my tablature and notation. It's pretty standard for a lot of stuff that you see online. Um, I do have a couple exceptions here and there. So just to jump right into the basics, if there's anything I leave out here, I'll usually make a special note in the instruction that I'm giving. So the basics of it is, okay, we have our 6 string staff here, right? Okay, so each one of these lines is a string, and we start here. This is a place that I think gets overlooked a bit because this is essentially the tuning that's being used, okay? All right, and right here it's just set up as a standard tuning, and we start from low to high tone, okay? So, the low, fattest, biggest string you have to the skinniest, highest string you have. So we would have our low E, then that's the 6th string, then 5th string A, 4th string D, 3rd string G, 2nd string B, and the 1st string, the high E. Okay, so that's the tuning we have here. And if it's another alternate tuning, like a drop D or a drop C or anything like that, I'll always let you know what the tuning is when I get into the instructional section of the video, and it'll have it listed here. Okay, so like a drop D, we would basically just change the low E down to a D, all right, and everything else will stay the same. For like a drop C, it would be, C, G, C, F, A, D. All right, so the tuning is always right here. And, I have a special video that kind of outlines all the different tunings, alternate tunings that I use a lot, more into the aspect of different Deftones stuff because they use a lot of different tunings. So I just kind of use them as an example. But I'll have that video listed below if you want to check out, alternate tunings and all that good stuff. So that's kind of the basic of it here is 6 strings from low to high. And now we move into the numbers, okay? And so we would have here this 4, all right, on the G string. So that's basically saying the 4th fret on the G string. And the way we're counting the frets, we're coming from the nut up the neck, okay? So from the tuners, that end of the neck, up to where the pickups are, all right? So we would count from the nut or the tuner end 4 frets up, and that's where we would find the 4th fret, okay? And that's kind of how all the numbers work, all right? Anytime you see a 3, that's 3 frets up on the 3rd fret, and then we get into like past the, the double digit numbers. So, 12th fret, that's 12 all the way up. Typically that's, notated on your neck by like the double dots or the double inlay there. So that's a good way to remember that. And it just counts all the way like that. So with these other notations now, and just to clarify, up here is where I'll have, the part of the song that's being worked on, like the bridge or the chorus or the verse. And under that, this is where I would list a chord, all right, or like the overall chord theme that's going on, but generally like the chord that's being played. And you'll see a lot like X4 or X2 or 3. That means basically just play that section, 4 times or 3 times, 2 times, whatever. So that's what that's indicating. And under here, I like to use this trick a lot where I'll kind of have this bracketed section, all right, and then some dots and a little arrow up. That means basically instead of me just writing that whole thing out again and eating up a bunch of space, basically it just means play this section that I'm indicating here, play that section in this spot again, okay? So that's what that's all about. And for more of these basic notations here, like this, you'll see the B, all right, that means to bend, all right? So you play the note, and then you just give that string a bend. Typically upwards, it's up to you. And the R is to release that bend. All right, just bring the string back down to its resting state. All right, and sometimes people use a little arrow or something, in the printed, old school printed guitar magazine and book versions, that's indicated by like a little arrow that goes up. Some softwares out there can let you do that, but I keep everything in Notepad just to make it quick and easy. It's the fastest for me, so I just like to use it. And my overall concept with tabs are to try to keep everything as concise and together for like the specific section I'm showing. Try to keep it all on one page, so I try to make everything as condensed and concise as possible. Less complicated that way, I think. So uh, moving on to, say, these slashes here, the forward slash, that's indicating to slide up. All right, so you would play, say, like this fifth fret on the D string, just arbitrary thing here. Just play that, and then you would slide it up to the sixth fret. All right, and then when you see the backslash, that means we're sliding down. All right, so you would say play like this sixth fret, and then slide down to the 5. All right, that's just kind of like an arbitrary reference there. And this is kind of where I have some differences here. This arch right here, a lot of times you might see some people use that as a notate to bend. I don't really like to use that. I like to use the B. I like to use this arch to indicate the hammer-on pull-off. All right, because it's a lot more reminiscent of the old school guitar magazines and books that use an arch in that same way to indicate the hammer-on pull-off. Some people will just put H for hammer-on or P for pull-off, and essentially that means you play for a hammer-on, you play this note, and then you just hammer, say, your middle or ring finger or whatever finger onto the next fret after playing this note. And the pull-off is just the opposite. You play the note, and then you pull it off to, your index finger or whatever that's holding the fret behind it. All right, so that's what that technique is all about. The space, you'll see a lot of times, that's just me indicating we're into a different section of this overall area, like the bridge or chorus. It's just onto the next piece of it, basically. You'll see this PM. That means palm mute. And that technique is basically, you just take the edge of your strumming hand, like the karate chop edge, and you just lightly touch the strings just past the bridge just to give it some muting. You're not totally deadening it. You're just giving it a little bit of muting there. So that's palm muting. And now when you see the numbers just totally in line with each other vertically like this, that means we're playing a chord. All right, or just two strings or more strings all together at once. All right, so this here, it's basically a C5 power chord type deal here. So we're just playing, the third fret on the E and the A, the fifth fret on the D and G. We're playing them all together as a chord. Most of the times I'll give a general feel of, the chord strumming here. Sometimes if it's like a super busy strumming and all that, I'll just kind of give a basic here and just let you know that the feel of it is such and such, like just a shuffling strum. If I tried to write out all the strumming, it would just take so much space and take multiple sections just to get through it. So I try to condense things and just give you like a little more of a verbal instruction of what's happening there. So yeah, that's with the chords. A lot of times I'll see this with the dots after a note. And this could be at the end of a chord or just a note itself or whatever. But if you see like a little period dot after a note, that means that it's more of a staccato. So basically we're just playing the note and then cutting it, all right after. We don't hold it or anything. We just silence it pretty quickly after playing it. Okay, this next section here, you see these little tilde squiggly lines. That's to indicate tremolo or vibrato. All right, so you would play the note, then you would just kind of wiggle it, giving a little micro bend and release, basically, just to give it that vibrato sound. So that's what that's indicating. These X's, I get some questions on those. That's basically you're strumming that string or those strings, but you're not really fretting anything. You're just kind of like have your fingers draped over the string, so you're just getting like that dead, plucky sound. All right, so it happens a lot as, sometimes you're shuffling. A lot of shuffles you'll just kind of deaden the strings just to give more of a rhythmic feel to it, like a percussive rhythmic feel. You'll see that a lot, but that's kind of what that indicates. You're playing that string, but you're not really fretting anything. You're just deadening it with your left hand. All right, and something like this with the parentheses on it, that means we're playing a harmonic. So kind of close to this deadening thing, but you're definitely going for a certain tone that's coming off of it when you do that. So, and it's a little more of a lighter touch. So you would just barely have your finger touching the string over this particular fret, and then you play it, and then you'll get that harmonic tone. All right, so this T, that's a tap, and that's kind of like the right hand or a strumming hand tapping technique. So basically, whatever this T is under, it means that you're coming over with your strumming hand's index or middle or ring, whatever finger you're comfortable with. Usually it's the index, and you're tapping on that fret, which basically it's just kind of like an attack, like you're just really pressing hard and getting the note out of it with your right hand or strumming hand tapping finger. I don't use that technique a whole lot. It's not really my deal, but if you see that T, that's usually what that means. And this here, these forward-facing arrows, that's kind of my little shorthand to let you know, just to like keep strumming. All right, and instead of having to write the whole thing out and just take up a whole bunch of space and all that stuff, it's just a shorthand to let you know, just to keep that chord strumming until the end of the measure or whatever, the end of the section. So that's what these arrows here mean. And aside from that, there could be some little minute notations here and there. Usually, if it's something strange or uncommon, I'll indicate what that is and give more detail in the lesson that I'm doing to let you know what that's all about. So just a general overall look at what my notation, what basic kind of internet-looking tablature is going on about. So hopefully that helped you guys out a lot, and we'll see you in the future videos.